white man, fuck the 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 white man. Painted by the Spanish, did a whole lot of damage. Shit was outlandish, banks got branded. Split up all the family, then shipped across the Atlantic. So many died from the famine. Threw the dead bodies overboard, sharks ate them like salmon. I know you can't stand it. I speak the truth, goddammit. Big business got managed, dig it double back. Came to pick up on the blacks. We'll beat up our back, we never got to relax. But you can set us free, but they can double back without a crack. The type of game you can play, hey, to keep it real, I ain't going for it. Beat a couple court cases, had a warm board. Told my mama if I ever did time, I'ma raise up the whole yard. Had my lawyer like, oh Lord, District Attorney added more charges. No problem, ain't tripping. Rolling through the scriptures. Miami said the Lord with your boy, that's a small issue. Bounce back out the rebound. UPK got the heat now. They done let me out the leash now, teaching in the streets now. I'm part of lost tribes south, but it started in the east now. Look, this for my people. This for my people. Yeah, this for my people. This for my people. This for my people. Yeah, this for my people. Fuck the white man, 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 fuck my people. This for my people. Yeah, this for my people. This for my people. This for my people. Yeah, this for my people. Fuck the white man, 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 fuck.
How would you like to get priority access?
Ain't taking no slack, get to it. You take a loss, try to bounce back, but you blew it. Let me show you how to do it. Do it, I can prove it. Bro, boy, we can do it. Nigga, ain't nothing to it. Ain't no doubt, ain't no excuses. Let's get to it. I don't care what they talk. All I want is my Porsche. I'ma ride up clean. I'ma force you. Kill them off like a boss. Nigga, you better stop it. All about my profit. I'm shooting off like a rocket. Who got to blow these niggas out the water? He go hard and go hard. Steph Curry, fourth quarter. All I got is my niggas. All I fear is my fault. All I bring is that slaughter. Blind water, bro, hard. He ain't real, he alive. If he real, who am I? Now his ass in the fire. SHALAM till I die. Please don't cross the line. Try to stop and stop trying. Boom, shop is wild, wild. I'm on the grind. Let's get to it. Double time and believe. You ain't humming me, nigga. I brought a whole army of niggas. So I ain't moving with precision. Follow every order dip. Let's get to it. Make it little shit, get to it. Ain't taking no shit, get to it. You take a loss, try to bounce back, but you blew it. Let me show you how to do it. Undisputed, I can prove it. Fuck war, we can do it. Nigga, ain't nothing to it. Ain't no doubt, ain't no excuses. Let's get to it. You the truth I'm speaking. Lot of hate for no reason. Probably don't understand. That's why I got the master plan. And all the power in my hand. You send this shit on demand. Better watch where you stand. You flamed up and it changed up for nobody. They're warfare, what you know about? This ain't a rap, it's a message. Ain't a way to be respected. Fake niggas like a virus. A lot of niggas infected. I came to correct it. Brought a whole bunch of soldiers. Stay moving my discretion. When the rivers in the itch, all the niggas hit the exit. Them niggas get the spring. I demand your attention. Tell a nigga I ain't folding. Plus you know a nigga hold it. Nigga look how I'm rolling. Short check my demeanor. He's smooth, but I'm clean. Flow like Aquafina. Hit him run the Seraphim. Yeah. I got it to live, about to have a baby, but I still want a baby. Let's get to it. Let's it comes to a dream. I'm strictly dead. I'm all about the business. Top solid every lens. You came to make friends. I came to make a killing. That's why I'm gonna kill it. Leave these niggas hurt. That's why I'm fishing, nigga. You need a healing. I know you can hear me. I'ma bet you a rookie. And Kanye, you a Donald Trump, I'm a pussy. I'm a kid, you a cookie. Hey, I'm just following orders. Time it is, you understand? We broads. King Ty really run one of the realest. I survived drive-bys from them killers. Like I got 9 lives, I got 9 wives. I said fine wine with them bitches. I'm spitting fire bombs in your city. I got like 8 or 9 niggas with me. And when y'all ready to die in a minute, one West, the rest in the business. I get offended, I fuck niggas spend it. Talking they get it, but niggas is sending. Rappers is softer than linen. Training y'all parking lot pimping. What walk it I give them? I've been the hottest forever. Why would I lie about cheddar? I can do better. I just put loyalty first. Royalty coming whenever. Pull off in the Jetta. Courage, you me, you sweater. My fault like wearing a sweater in summertime weather. Haters so salty, no pepper. You not that seasoned or clever. I'm with the rebel. Used to put bass with the treble. Baking and cake in a kettle. I used to cook with the work. Now I just cook with the metal. Gotta keep foot to the pedal. Yeah. Let me get the gas on the highway. Let the music blast on the calm day. Put the clock down in the 3 parts. The three together like Menage. Bombay with my enclave. Got my mom made. Ain't no time waste. Eating prime steak with a fine day at a fine place. Getting violated.
Hey, listen, I already told these niggas, you understand? I called up King Town, he said, what's up? I said, what's good, my lord? Listen, he like, listen, these niggas ain't ready for none of this. You understand? I said, listen, if the nigga ain't one with us, he ain't got on his arm or his chest. I don't give a fuck about the nigga. It's just me and my niggas. We royalty here.
I got the hammer, you running, man. Come through your window like rubber, man.
Brother, man.
Shalom Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahshai Barakatha to all the brothers. Yahweh Shemar Alatha Ba'Shem Yahshai to all the sisters. This is the I.S.U.P.K. Canada under Commanding General YAHANNA. Started out 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York. This is the home of the truth, where you're going to get the truth of the Bible, right? You're going to get the truth about your history. You're going to get history breakdowns that you don't regularly get, the things they won't teach you in school. Right? If it's not of I.S.U.P.K, it's not the truth. Just because somebody says they're an Israelite, right, and they're a leader, doesn't mean it's the truth. If they have fringes on their shirt or the Jewish man's tassels, you should get away from them as soon as possible. Right? So welcome to another Monday night history class. It's going down. Hit that sign-in link in the chat if you are in the school for your attendance. Hit the sign-in link in the chat for your attendance. Get the Hebrew benefits, right? When it's time to go to the throne room, you don't want to have the name that your mother gave you, right? The name that's not Hebrew, that has a whole bunch of sins written down next to it, right? You want a Hebrew name. Right, a name with no sins. You want to be able to say, this is who I am. I found out who I am. I learned the truth and I stopped sinning. Right? Like when Christ told the lady who was accused of being an adulteress to go and sin no more. That's what you want. You want to go and sin no more. The only place you're going to learn not to sin is in the I.S.U.P.K. Right? Outside of here, outside of these walls, you're gonna think you could love your oppressor. You're gonna think that you could sleep with children who have their monthly flower at the age of 12, right? You're gonna think it's a good thing to bring to, you're just not gonna be in the truth, right? So once again, this is the I.S.U.P.K history class. We got a good class for you tonight. We're gonna bring up something that's rarely talked about, right? Canada's Black porters. There's a history of Canadian Black men, so-called Canadian Black men who were porters, right? Porters were basically, they were servants on trains, right? And they would serve our oppressor, right? A lot of times they would sleep on those trains, and this is before planes. This is before you had the big jumbo commercial jet to fly you from Toronto to New York real fast. You were on trains, right? So we're going to go into that history and break it down. Once again, hit that sign-in link. Hit the sign-in link for credit, for benefits. blackwatchnews.com. Also, the new YouTube channel, Black Watch News, right, will be live at 9 p.m. Commanding General YAHANNA will be live along with the heavy hitters. Right? Salakia, one moment. Let me just get this right. Okay. All right. So blackwatch.news, right? That's the website. You want to go check it out. You'll see all the latest episodes of Black Watch, right? So let's get into this. First, we're going to start with a video.
Time when the preferred method of travel for most Canadians was by rail. Well, there was a time when the preferred method of travel for most Canadians was by rail, and for those who traveled by train were more often than not served by Black porters. And now there's a new book which sheds some light on their stories. CBC's Sanjay Maru spoke to the author at a book signing this afternoon. He joins me in studio. Sanjay, why did he want to write this book?
Well, Arms, the book is called They Call Me George, the untold story of Black train porters and the birth of modern Canada. And as the name suggests, it chronicles the trials and tribulations of these porters. These are people who would spend long hours, sometimes getting 3 hours of sleep in a 24-hour journey, hauling luggage, folding down beds, shining shoes, and serving passengers. Now, it's a history not often explored in Canadian classrooms, overshadowed by that of the Underground Railroad, rather than the people who worked on those trains. And when I spoke to the book's author, Cecil Foster, he said the story of Canada tends to focus on English and French people, but that's not what it should be about.
The Canadian story is really about how we get to be the multicultural country that we are and what kind of future we can imagine for all Canadians, regardless of where they have come from, what language they speak, their sexuality, or any of those things.
Now, part of why these porters are so crucial to the birth of modern Canada, he says, is because of their influence on federal multicultural policy.
Right?
The immigrant crucial to the birth of modern Canada.
Or any of those things. It's of where they have come from, what imagine for all Canadian multicultural country that we are. The Canadian story is really about how we get to be the multicultural country that we are and what kind of future we can imagine for all Canadians, regardless of where they have come from, what language they speak, their sexuality, or any of those things.
Right. So I got to stop this right here for a second, because now this man said all Canadians, right? Now I'm going to break something down for you, right? Not all Canadians were porters, right? So
Shalom, out of one, Lord in Christ.
hey, Shalom, Lord in Christ. Salakia, I'm not sure if your screen is black at the moment.
Khan, Salakia.
No sweat. I wasn't sure if it was like a camera issue, or usually it has like the emblem or something. So I wasn't sure if you knew your camera was working or not.
Good.
I know how it goes, though, right?
Good.
All right. So back to what I was saying. Wait, Slovakia. Shalom, Lord in Christ.
Shalom, Lord in Christ. Salakia, one moment, Israel. We're just having some technical difficulties. Salakia. So Officer Zabadi was just bringing out some information on porters, right? I think he was just saying, the last thing he was saying is that not all Canadians were porters. I'm just going to bring out the definition of a porter. This is the Merriam-Webster's definition. It says a person stationed at a door or gate to admit or assist those entering. Couple other entries, it says a person who carries burdens, one employed to carry baggage or patrons at a hotel or transportation terminal, a parlor car or sleeping car attendant who waits on passengers and makes up berths. And the last definition we'll give is a person who does routine cleaning, as in a hospital or office, right? So those are just some of the definitions of a porter, right? It's somebody who services people, especially in what you would call like the transportation industry. So Slaki, I'm going to give the class back to Priest and Officer 500 Zabadi.
Thawada for holding it down for me, Ak.
Come, sir.
Right. Give me one moment.
Slaki, sir, are you there? Oh, Salaki, we're having some technical difficulties. I think the brother's just trying to bring the video out. Salaki, one minute. Let's see if I can pull the video up on my screen. All right, we're gonna get this video out, no sweat. What we can do is let's jump to Deuteronomy chapter 32, and we'll start at verse 7. All right, Deuteronomy chapter 32 and verse 7. And it reads, "Remember the days of old, consider the years of many generations." Right? When you look at some of the history of porters, right, the blacks and the black community living in Canada, there's a history of them working as porters, right? A lot of us, I know myself, both my grandfathers worked as porters in Canada, right? It was a very common thing for black males, I think starting from around 1880, living in Canada to work as porters over here. And so the scripture says, remember the days of old, right? The Most High is telling blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, remember your past, right? Remember the days of old. Remember of blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians when they lived in Egypt. Remember about the history of blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians when we were under the Assyrian captivity, right? Remember the days when the Most High fought for us. Remember the days when the Most High freed us from Egypt, right? Remember the days of old. Remember your history, right? It goes on to read, consider the years of many generations, right? And slow down and think about it, right? Meditate on it. Ask questions. Learn about your history, right? Ask why that your forefathers were doing what they were doing. Ask why the tie was with your forefathers at a particular point in time, right? These are things that we should consider. It says, ask thy father, and he will show thee, thy elders, and they will tell thee, right? You can ask your father about your history. You can ask your grandparents about your history. You can ask different elders throughout your community about some of the things that went on in our history, that went on with blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, right? And gaining this knowledge helps us make better decisions in life, right? There's a saying in the world, like the saying in the world says to learn from your parents' mistakes, right? The scripture is saying, ask your forefathers, consider the days of old, so that you can learn, so that you can make wise decisions, right? Wise decisions about life. You understand? So that you don't have to repeat what your forefathers went through. So you don't have to make the same mistakes your parents made, right? We have a very deep history amongst Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, right? And you can ask your forefathers about the history of porters, right? You can ask your grandparents about the history of living in Canada, being a Black, Hispanic, or Native Indian man or woman living in Canada. I know a lot of people in that generation, they absolutely hate the European man, right? They hate the so-called white man, the oppressor, right? A lot of our forefathers will tell you that the oppressor is the devil the Bible speaks of. Without the knowledge of the Bible, but just looking at how they were treated living here in Canada. You understand? A lot of our forefathers say, don't cast your pearls to swine, right? There's something special about us. There's something special about Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, and we shouldn't give our talent and our energy over to people who are less than. You understand? Asking our forefathers about the days of old, they have a lot of insight and knowledge about the history and the character of the people that we live with. You understand? So, Salaki, we're gonna pull this video up.
Well, there was a
Just give me one moment. Just gonna wait for Officer Zabadia to play this video. All right, so this video is titled CBC Windsor, The Untold Story of Canada's Black Train Porters. All right.
Hey, Shalom, I'm back.
Hey, Shalom, Most High in Christ, sir.
All right,
So
Baba Kashai, can you play that video for us?
Con, sir.
And just make the screen full. Thought,
Con.
It's a time when the preferred method of travel for most Canadians was by rail, and for those who traveled by train were more often than not served by Black porters. And now there's a new book which sheds some light on their stories. CBC's Sanjay Maru spoke to the author at a book signing this afternoon. He joins me in the studio. Sanjay, why did he want to write this book?
Well, Arms, the book is called They Call Me George, the Untold Story of Black Train Porters and the Birth of Modern Canada. And as the name suggests, it chronicles the trials and tribulations of these porters. These are people who would spend long hours, sometimes getting 3 hours of sleep in a 24-hour journey, hauling luggage, folding down beds, shining shoes, and serving passengers. Now, it's a history not often explored in Canadian classrooms, overshadowed by that of the Underground Railroad, rather than the people who worked on those trains. And when I spoke to the book's author, Cecil Foster, he said the story of Canada tends to focus on English and French people, but that's not what it should be about.
The Canadian story is really about how we get to be the multicultural country that we are and what kind of future we can imagine for all Canadians, regardless of where they have come from, what language they speak, their sexuality, or any of those things.
Baba Kashai, can you pause that right there?
Those are so
Con, sir.
Right. So before we started getting technical difficulties, right, we were going into this brother, right? This is a broken brother. The last man that was just speaking, right? He's broken. He's a full-blown Christian, right? Because this is about black porters, right? The book is called I'm Called George, right? So it's George Porterman or something like that, is the designer of the sleeping cars. We're going to get into that as we get into an article. He called every black man that worked on, or Salakia, they called every black man that worked as a porter George, right? They didn't give a damn about what his name was, what his mother and his father named him. They just called him George because you're a black man and no one gives a damn about you. Right. It's just like when we were going through slavery and you lost your name, you lost your heritage. They just called you after the slave master, right? For most Benjamites, right? If you're a Benjamite and you have the last name Williams, right? They basically say your last name is Williams because your slave master's name was Willie and he grew yams. So they say Williams, right? That's what's happening. This brother is saying it's for everybody, right? And the shape of what the multicultural country is going to look like. It's going to look like, until Christ comes back, Black, Hispanics, and Native Americans at the bottom of the grinder getting grinded, right? There were no Chinese porters. Our oppressor, the so-called white man, was not a porter, right? It's not for him. He's trying to say it's for everybody. There's a common theme of whenever blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, whenever blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans go through any type of trauma or anything that has to do with their history or anything that, like, they go through the worst history, then something good might happen. Not to say good, but now blacks are getting recognition for being porters, right? But this brother is saying it's for everybody. Not everybody was a porter, right? You could play the video again, Baba Kasha. I just wanted to hit on that part.
Okay.
Crucial to the birth of modern Canada, he says, is because of their influence on federal multicultural policy. The Immigration Act of 1910 allowed Canada to stop immigrants from coming in who were deemed, quote, unsuited to the climate or requirements of Canada. Now, that didn't sit well with these.
Pause that for a second. Right? So, about a while back, you can find this. It's a while back. If you go through the videos in I.S.U.P.K. Canada, you will find a video, a class where Officer 5000 of Bond is teaching that Canada, the government of Canada, did not want so-called blacks to come into the country, right? Specifically so-called Jamaicans. There was a time when they didn't want Jamaicans in the country, right? Now there's a time where they want Jamaicans in the country, which is right now, but they only want Jamaicans in the country so they can go up north and pick apples, grow potatoes, and work in farms. That's the only way they'll allow a so-called Jamaican, Benjamite, an Israelite from the tribe of Benjamin into Canada, right? You could keep playing.
In 1954, a group of them went to Ottawa as part of the first delegation of Black Canadians to meet with the cabinet minister at the time. And if you ask Foster, these porters are responsible for making Canada the diverse country it is today.
Sajid, did he speak to any former porters?
Well, understandably, many of these trained porters have since passed away, but there was one in attendance sitting at the back of the room. That was 91-year-old Hilliard Morris from North Buxton, just south of Chatham. He became trained porter back in 1946 and says the color of their skin stopped many from being promoted, but not him. He was eventually promoted to the train's conductor. Take a listen as he recalls those days.
Well, after I got that badge on, as simply car conductor, they sort of restricted me more in the porter.
Do you miss working on the train?
I did for a long while. I still dream about it a bit.
Now, you may be wondering why the book is called They Called Me George. That was the name given to every train porter at the time. They were named that after train designer and manufacturer George Pullman. He was the man who hired these porters at a time when slaves were named after their owners. Arms. Thank you, Sanjay. Thank you.
Right. And so you could get rid of that, right? So you know what? Actually, bring that back for a second. Bring that last like 10 seconds back, last 20 seconds where he starts talking about
at the time.
Come on, sir.
Yeah, the water. Now, before we play this, look at this brother, right? He still dreams of working on that train, which is truly sad, right? No brother's supposed to be dreaming about his slavery when he's well into his old age. When I get off my slavery, I don't want to think about it, right? I can't speak for everybody, but myself, I don't think about my slavery until it's time for my alarm clock to go off. Till it's time for me to make lunch so I can wake up at 4:30 in the morning. I'm not thinking about my slavery at all. This brother's still thinking about his slavery, right? And he was the one brother out of all the porters that were slaving and breaking their backs, working long hours, being away from their family on long trips, dealing with racist Caucasian Canadians, right? Missing his family. He was the one brother that was promoted to a train conductor. Right? Now look at the pain in his eyes, right? And now let's go back to the heathen, right? We're gonna play and watch the last statement of the heathen, right? And look at his facial expression, right? And you're gonna find out that these nations, they don't love you. They don't give a damn about you. They don't speak up for your injustice. They just talk about it and act like it's nothing, right? You can press play, Baba Kasha.
Come.
Wow, I still dream about it a bit.
Good night.
Now, you may be wondering why the book is called They Called Me George. That was the name given to every train porter at the time. They were named that after train designer and manufacturer George Pullman. He was the man who hired these porters at a time when slaves were named after their owners. Arms. Thank you, Sanjay. Thank you.
Okay, I'm done talking about these niggas. Look, I don't even want to talk about them no more. Look at his facial expression. He didn't say, like, majority of Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, we will hear a tragic story. We will repeat a tragic story, and then we'll say something like, that's terrible. They shouldn't have done that, right? He just says, that's it. Okay, we're done. Get this black man off my screen. I don't want to speak about it no more. Right? And the video ends. He doesn't say anything about that was an injustice. Like, they didn't have names. Like, good night. Can you imagine being called George? Right? That Salakia, side note, there was an oppressor I was working with, right? And this man called everybody Jimmy. The man called everybody Jimmy. He called me Jimmy. I looked at it and said, listen, my name is, and don't call me Jimmy. Like, that's not my name. Like, I'm not Jimmy. Do not call me that. Right? He said, okay, started calling me what I told him to call me. Right? So we got a story. Salaki, I gotta bring up this story. One moment. Let me see if I can get this. Salakia, one moment. Hey, can you, Baba Kasha, can you get me Deuteronomy 28 and verse 1? Baba Kasha.
Okay. This is the book of Deuteronomy. Come.
Khan, you got it.
This is Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 1. And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments which I command thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth.
Right. So Black, Hispanic, and Native Americans, you're supposed to be set high above all the nations of the earth, right? You're not supposed to be in a low state. You're not supposed to be, Salakia, for lack of better words, you're not supposed to be no damn servant, right? You're supposed to be the person ordering the servant around, right? And all you had to do is keep the Lord's laws, statutes, and commandments, right? A lot of times in history class, we're gonna bring this verse up because a lot of times in this history class, it's not good history. It's especially if we're doing Canadian history. It's not okay. We're gonna talk about. There are some good history stories, but we got to bring out the stories that they don't tell us, right? They always have the token Black person that they want to prop up and make it seem like it's good. They'll always give us a history of Martin Luther King, right? They'll put a sister on the bill. Now, we did a story on that sister. That sister was doing an excellent job being a sister. She was showing sisterhood, right? She was showing sisterhood. She went, learned to trade, came back, and taught that trade to her sisters when no one wanted to teach them nothing. Right? You could keep reading. Was that the end of the verse? So what you're supposed to be high above all nations of the earth, right? We're gonna go into I wanted to read this story for a quick second. Right, let's see something. Hold up. Bear with me one moment. Right, but as we were reading earlier, this is a time in history when as a Black man, you couldn't get the job that you wanted, right? I'm just trying to find the article that I had earlier. Okay, I got it. Email it to myself. Hold up. Can you, Baba Kasha, can you read down, give me verse 6. Give me verse 15, Baba Kasha.
Come. Verse 15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
Right. To be a porter, right? To be a porter following the orders of the same people who put you into slavery, beat your history out of you, took your Hebrew name away from you, and called you George. That's a curse, right? That is definitely a curse, right? And we're gonna get to it. You could drop down and give me 16.
Come. Cursed shalt thou be in the city.
Right, hold that right there, right? So we were cursed in the city, right? You couldn't get a job. You had the worst jobs. Our forefathers, our grandfathers, our uncles, right? Our great grandfathers, they always had the worst jobs. They couldn't get another job in Toronto, right? It's just like right now where you walk onto a construction site and you rarely see a brother, right? They make it extremely hard for brothers to get into a good trade, right? The only thing they tell you in high school is go to college, go get a loan from the government, $50,000. You're not going to get the job that you want once you get out of university if you graduate. If OSAP doesn't turn around and tell you that we paid you too much and you have to pay us 5 racks before we can give you back money, and you're thinking, how the hell am I supposed to pay you 5 racks if I'm coming to you for 5 racks, right? They never told you that you could be in the trades, right? Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, we always have the worst jobs, right? They made it so porters, Black men could only be porters, could only be butlers, right? There's a movie about a butler that worked in the White House for years, and the actor of that movie, I'm not sure who it is. He's probably gonna get an Oscar, right? Because the only time you can get an Oscar is when you're portrayed as something less than what you're supposed to be. Right? You're a prince. You are a prince of power, right? Yashra Allah in the Hebrew, prince of power. Our forefather Jacob wrestled with an angel. The angel had to knock his hip bone out and said, listen, you're surely a prince of power. That's who you are, blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. Princes of powers. You have crowns waiting for you in the kingdom of heaven, right? The Christian church is not going to give it to you. Commanding General YAHANNA, I.S.U.P.K, that's where you're going to come and get your crown, right? We were cursed in the city to have the worst jobs, right? You can finish out the verse.
Come. And cursed shalt thou be in the field.
Right? And the poor of us, the ones that were in the countryside, cursed shall we be in the field, right? You could also say, well, listen, we were all on the plantation. Right? Don't think that it was just blacks who went through that slavery, right? Native Americans and so-called Hispanics went through that slavery as well, right? We were cursed in the field, right? So I'm gonna drop that. Let me see. I have an article, but I think it's damn near the same article the same video we just read. Right, I'm gonna just go through some parts of this article. Right, this is the untold story of Canada's black train porters. Right, at the beginning of the 20th century, being a train porter in Canada was a job reserved for black men only. Salaki, I have to share this with you, right? Because you're gonna have some black, Hispanic, or Native American that says, no, our oppressors aren't like that. We could love them till this day. Right. Like I was on my way to slavery this morning. I was listening to the Clubhouse, right? There was a room basically talking about interracial dating, and you just heard the most caping, like black men and women caping for the oppressor, right? Acting like all the years of oppression we went through wasn't nothing. Right, let's see if this works. It should work. Salaki, it's not that one.
Salaki Adawan, you're on mute.
Right. So basically, I posted the link for the article I'm about to read in the chat. I'm just gonna skim through this article a little. Right. Being a train porter in Canada was a job reserved for black men only. Salakia, like just listen to what I just said to you. Reserved for black men only. So when you watch that video and that brother said for everybody, no matter what race, creed, he's just a lost brother, right? He's just a lost brother stuck deep in Christianity where he thinks he has to love everybody. He's minimizing the pain all his brothers went through, right? Because again, this job was reserved for black men only. Right. It was a thankless job that consisted of hauling luggage, folding down beds, shining shoes, serving passengers. These porters earned meager pay, right? They earn next to nothing, right? That's why we call it a slavery, because you only earn enough to pay for your housing and get something to eat, right? got little to no sleep. Oh, Salakia. Officer Shariwan, I know you can relate to that one. Little to no sleep. Like we got little to no sleep when it comes to our slaveries, man. We gotta go to slavery. We gotta take care of our families, right? Wake back up and then do so much more work. And Salakia, especially when you're a priest and prophet of the Lord. Now, I ain't quitting my day job, right? My slavery is not my day job. My day job is me doing this right here. I ain't quitting it, and I'm not tired. We're gonna keep doing it, even though we get little to no sleep. Right? Shout out to the chat. Shalom, Janice Bell. The Waters for tuning in. Right? Little to no sleep, and were consistently separated from their families, zigzagging the country, right? So when you heard that brother talk about everybody, it wasn't everybody. Like brothers barely seen their families. Like it's a 16-hour drive from here to Thunder Bay. And these men were doing these on train. These trains weren't as fast as trains now, right? So why did they do it? Stanley Grizzly worked as a train porter for 20 years. He said he did it because he needed to eat, and there wasn't other work available for black men at the time, right? You should really go into this article and get a chance to read it because it's definitely deep, right? It's a history not often explored, overshadowed in Canada's classrooms, right? Again, they do not teach you Black, Hispanic, or Native American history in classrooms. For Blacks, Hispanics, for Blacks, Hispanics, all we get is Martin Luther King. That's about it. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Rosa Parks. We know all of that. Malcolm X turned on his peoples. Right, that's why he got killed. That's why they killed him. Martin Luther King sold us into a fiery house. He told us going to that fiery house will be all right. Right. For my Native American brothers, do you know how hard it is to find Native American history in Canada? Right. It's now that the earth is helping the woman. Right, meaning Israel. The woman is Israel. The earth is helping us, and she's spitting out the bodies of thousands of Native American children, and now we get the stories of what's happening to them, right? Oh, Salakia, Shalom. Okay, Janice Bell. 1 second. Give you a little spotlight for a quick second, right? She said her father was a porter. My mother's uncle are in the Black Canadian history book. Oh, snap. Okay, Janice Bell, do us a favor. If you have that history book or you know where we can find it, email it to ISUPK Canada at Gmail. 1 second, I'm just typing it in. Gmail.com. Right? That's the water. Right, and we understand that was the only job they can get at the time, and that was a terrible thing for your family to go through, right? Well, Baba Kashav, meaning please, if you could get a copy of the book and get us some photocopies or some pictures, or even like the name of the book for us, you could email it to us, and that would be very interesting. We could probably do a deeper class with that information. Thawada again for tuning in. Most High in Christ, right? Like we don't get that history that we're supposed to get, right? We don't hear about the good things that so-called Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans did, right? All we get is they just give us a watered down version. They make it seem like the Native Americans were happy to be going onto reservations, right? You might hear the 1800 wars, and that's about it, right? But you're not going to get this history in your classrooms because I've never even knew there were Black porters until, let's say, within like 24 hours ago, right? This it's something you have to research. You might just stumble across some history, right? Literally, you might just stumble across some history, right? Let's see if we can get some more of this story. Right. So, as an immigrant to Canada from Barbados, Foster started his career as a transportation reporter. He quickly learned that most histories about Canadian transportation focused on railroads themselves rather than who was working on those trains, right? So that's because the black men working in those trains, the oppressors only called them George. They didn't give a damn about who was on those trains, right? We're gonna get rid of this one. I had another article. See if I can get into it. See what's in it. Right. I'm also gonna post this article in the chat. So this article is in the chat. I'm gonna see if there's anything of importance to it. But it's definitely worth a read, even on your own time, right? Okay. So this is something I want. Let's see. Right. So Salakia, the water again for being in this class, Janice Bell, right? She said nowhere in Canadian history will they mention natives married blacks, which is definitely true. We know that in the United States, a lot of times, right, so-called slaves, black people would run away from their slave plantation and run towards the natives. The natives would help us. The natives would take us in. Right? There is a narrative going on right now that where they say Native Americans had slaves, right? That is a blatant lie. Native Americans never had slaves, but our brothers and sisters, being how smart they were, when the oppressor would come and see a black man working with the native and not being treated like a slave, he would take that black man and bring him back to the plantation, right? That black man would be whipped and hung, right? So the oppressor, being the serpent that he is, said, okay, you know what? We're going to make it so Native Americans can own slaves. The Native Americans showing us brotherhood said, okay, we'll take these slaves. They wrote our names down as slaves, but they never treated us as slaves. The Native Americans treated us as free men, right? And we married sisters, and sisters married Native American men, right? And now the a lot of Native Americans, Salaki, I'm going to say this the best way I can. They have matriarchy, right? Where they say if the child is born of a native mother, it's native, right? So now the child born of a native mother would be free, and a lot of black men were marrying native sisters so their children could be born free, right? There is a book, I think it's called Black Natives. 1 second. Black Indians. This book right here, right? This book details that. Right, it details how we would work with our brothers and sisters, right? How our brothers and sisters would work with us, and they would do whatever they could to make sure that we didn't have to go back on the plantation, right? So it's time that we gather together, right? Black and brown have to unite, right? We have a common enemy, plus we're family. It's time to reunite again, right? So water again, Janice Bell. That was definitely heavy and very insightful, right? I'm gonna try to remember this. Okay, I'm gonna write that down before it disappears. But Thuwada again, right? So these are the things that were happening, right? Oh, Salaki, I wanted to share my screen for a second just to show you some things. Officer Shariwan, can you get me Deuteronomy 28 and 43, Baba Kasha?
Come. Verse 43.
Throughout
The
the
stranger.
Salakia, you can read.
Come. Verse 43. The stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, and thou
Right.
shalt come down very low.
Right. So this applies to both blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, right? Just take this in, right? The Native Americans were living peacefully in what they call Turtle Island, right? That's the Americas, that's Canada, that's the South Americas, if I'm not mistaken, right? If I am mistaken, somebody correct me, get me right, let me know what's up, right? But they were living peacefully. That I know for a fact. They were living peacefully, right? Just like all family, we might have a little arguments, we might fight here and there, but for the most part, it was a peaceful time, right? Our oppressor came to the shores, right? Didn't know how to survive, didn't know how to farm, didn't know how to take care of themselves. Our brothers and sisters showed them exactly how to take care of themselves. Salakia, this is just my opinion. I wish my brothers and sisters weren't so kind at that moment, right? But it is what it is, and now we have to gather back together, right? Look at this brother serving his oppressors, right? Salaki, I kind of lost my train of thought for a second. Right? So the stranger is going to get up high above us. Those Europeans that came off those savages that came off those boats, right? Speaking a language our Native American brothers and sisters didn't understand, right? They were strangers, right? Now those strangers are high above us. They run the country when this is Native American land. Natives should be running this country. There shouldn't be an oppressor talking about, oh, we have to give the Native Americans clean water. If the Native Americans ran this country, they wouldn't have need for clean water. They would already have it. Right? So the strangers, right? The strangers in this verse, right? Sometimes when we read these verses, you're going to see strangers in different contexts, right? But the stranger in this verse is our enemy. Sometimes the stranger could be a black, Hispanic, or Native American that comes among us that didn't live with us, right? Once again, Native Americans are Israelites. They are God's chosen people, right? Blacks, Hispanics, you are God's chosen people. I just wanted to show you this picture for a second. This is what it was like for this brother. He has to smile, right? We've all had a slavery where we got to go work and we got to go smile, even though you don't want to be there, even though you have literally nothing to smile about, but you got to fake the funk, right? You literally got to fake the funk to make an oppressor feel comfortable. Right, let's see if there's anything else. If you can see these pictures, like, right, image, black sleeping car porter assisting young passenger, right? So he has to assist these little Edomite children. He has to carry this woman's bag, right? And this was his life, right? I feel it for these brothers because they went through hell. Just imagine dealing with oppressors and all the things they probably said to you, and you don't get to see your family on top of it, right? That was a terrible situation, right? Was that the end of the verse?
Come on, sir.
Let's see. What does 44 say? You can read 44, Bokasha.
Come. He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail.
Right. Keep in mind, this is a curse. We're not supposed to be the tail. We're supposed to be the head, right? You're not supposed to be the person serving these oppressors. These oppressors are supposed to serve us, right? let's get to, I'm gonna read 48, right? This is okay, Khan, you're back. Can you, Baba Kashar, can you read 48?
Khan, sir. 48. Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies,
Right.
which the
So
Lord shall.
Khan, Salaki, you can continue.
Khan. Which the Lord shall send against thee.
Right. So a lot of people probably wonder why we haven't been able to beat our oppressor, why we haven't been able to get from up under our oppressor. If you look at any oppression that's been going on in the world, right, throughout history, it happened and then someone intervened, right? And now they're not being oppressed. There was some country named America that went in, intervened, and now they're not being oppressed. When you come to realize that our oppressors are the same ones that walk around in the superhero costume, acting like they're superheroes, right? They force our brothers and sisters onto reservations. They make sure that we have the worst jobs. They dump drugs into our community. They kill our children. Man, the list goes on. I can go on forever with a list of things the oppressors have done to us. Right? But we had to serve our enemies because we didn't want to listen to the Lord, right? We served our enemy. We have to serve our enemies to the point where our enemies come to us with our own history book and make it seem like they're the people in the book, right? You can't even crack open the Bible and read it to a Native American because the oppressor is such a devil and he used it to hurt them. That is a common theme that you'll find amongst people that are not in this book, right? They use this book to hurt us, right? And it's so sad, right? But at the end of the day, Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, it's that time. We got to gather together. I'm going to keep saying it. I'm going to go to camp and keep saying it. It's time for us to gather together. We're stronger together. We're like a hand, right? With 5 fingers. And an open hand slap is nothing compared to a closed fist punch. Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, when we gather together, we're going to be that closed fist punch, right? You can keep reading.
Come. In hunger and in thirst.
And in thirst, right? Our brothers and sisters on the reserves right now, they're going to their oppressor in thirst, asking for clean water plants. The oppressor gives it to them, right? But they don't give them a budget to operate. They say, yeah, we'll pay to build it, but operating it, you have to figure it out yourself. How are they going to figure it out themselves when they're not allowed to control their own banking? Right? Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, we go to our oppressor in thirst all the time. We were thirsty for something to eat, something to drink, and the only jobs we could get is a porter, right? You're hungry. You need to feed your family. Well, hop on this train and go from British Columbia to Nova Scotia and never see your family, right? You can keep reading.
And in nakedness.
Right, drop that, right? Bring me to Genesis 25. Bring me to Esau being born. It's Genesis 25, right? I'm going to show you that you're not supposed to serve your oppressor, right? It's just because we're going through it, man. We're going through punishments, right? Just like any father, any mother, you're going to punish your child when they don't listen. Unfortunately, our people are stubborn and we don't listen. We need some divine intervention to get from under our oppressors, right? That's what we need, because you can't fight the oppressor when it comes to war and combat, man. Like we don't have one jet. The oppressor they be making jets like damn near every day. We don't make one gun. The oppressor prints them out by the thousands, literally manufactures them. Now, I said it correctly because now they're 3D printing them. Right now, they're literally hitting their computer, pressing enter, and a 3D printed gun is printed out. right? How are you gonna fight that man who was blessed with the sword? You can't fight him. You need something else to fight him. Slovakia. Did you find the verse on Slovakia? Where are we? Okay,
Salakia
give
says
me
it around verse 20.
verse 23. What is it? 25, verse 23.
Come. This is Genesis 25 and verse 23.
Salakia. Read from 20. Read from 21, Baba Kasha. You could just read from 21 down to 23.
Come, sir. Verse 21. And Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife, because she was barren, and the Lord was entreated of him. And Rebekah his wife conceived. 22. And the children struggled together within her. And she said, if it be so, why am I thus? And she went to inquire of the Lord. Verse 23. And the Lord said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb.
Hold that right there. Those 2 nations were Blacks, Hispanics, and Native American. 1 nation. Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, we make up 1 nation, right? The other nation is the devil the Bible speaks of, our oppressor. Read.
And 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels.
Read.
And the one people shall be stronger than the other people.
Now for all this is both physically and mentally, right? Physically, Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are some of the strongest people you'll ever meet physically, right? Mentally, we're even stronger, right? Think about all the trauma, all the PTSD, all the tragedies we've been through, and we're still surviving. We're still here. Khan, you already know what it is, Ak. You can go.
Salakia, Adawan. I was actually just reading yesterday from a book called The 100 Amazing Facts about Negroes.
Right.
And one of the facts was it was around 1920 that the black man living in America, their literacy was around 60%.
Right.
Meaning 60% of blacks. This book, when it says Negro, I believe it also encompasses the Native Indians. So they were saying that blacks and Native Indians in America, it was like a 62% reading and writing literacy rate, or basically saying that they could read and write. And at the time, the European in the Americas, their literacy rate was only 20% of the population.
Sounds about right.
Salakia.
Well, that's definitely true, because even throughout history, right? They said the slaves couldn't read. They didn't want us to read, right? Well, they said we couldn't read, but the fact is we knew how to read. They just didn't want us to read the Bible, because if we read it, we would have been like Nat Turner and went on. Now, what's the best way to say what Nat Turner did? Nat Turner, he read the Bible on that slave plantation. He realized what his history was, and he realized how to get free, right? And let's just say a lot of slave masters died in the wake of Nat Turner reading the Bible. They didn't want us to read that Bible, so they gave us the slave Bible and put in verses that said, obey your master. Now, if you hear the word master, you think it's talking about slave masters, right? You're going to think that you have to obey your slave master. That's not what he was talking about. I obey my master because the man above me in my school knows more knowledge than me. He has more knowledge than me. He's a master when it comes to this knowledge. I obey his every word. That's how I know what I know, because I obeyed him and he taught me what I had to know. right?
Right.
It's not talking about obey your slave master, right? So they played a very deceptive game on us, right? We can continue reading.
Come. And the elder shall serve the younger.
Right. So we're gonna leave it right there for a second. I'm gonna just run it down. Esau was born first, right? Jacob came out second. Esau is the progenitor of the Caucasian race, right? When you go back into history, the Romans called themselves Salakia. The Greeks called the Romans Idumea, right? That is a Greek word for Edom, right? That's who they were, right? There are still in history you can find coins minted for in Rome, and it says either Edom or Idumea, one of the two, right? For the next history class, I'm gonna look up one of those coins and bring it for the history class so we have it, right? But you're not supposed to, blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, you're not supposed to be serving the elder, right? The elder was supposed to serve you, right? You're not supposed to be a porter. You're not supposed to be going to parliament and begging for clean water. You're supposed to already have it, right? Where else are we going to go? Let's go to Ecclesiastes 10 verse 7, right? One second. Let me not forget. Shameless plug. Tonight, Blackwatch. Hold up. Let me give it a quick edit. Tonight, Blackwatch.news on YouTube, right? Blackwatch.news on Blackwatch News on YouTube, right? Blackwatch and then space news on YouTube. 9 p.m. Hold up. No, that's not even the one I want. Hold up. Yeah, this one right here. Right, 9 p.m. It's gonna start soon, and you're gonna get it's basically a news channel for us. Like if you gotta go back a couple episodes and you'll see the excellent breakdown they did on the situation where they're finding the bodies of our murdered children, the bodies of murdered Native American children. Right, there was an excellent breakdown on that terrible tragedy. Right, I can't call it a situation because it's a tragedy. It's a crime that needs to be paid for. Right, the Catholic Pope said he's not apologizing because he's a devil. Right, a black. When you go, okay, so in court before they sentence anybody, right? They usually say, "Do you have anything to say?" They want to hear you apologize for remorse and give some remorse. This Pope said he's not apologizing because he has no remorse. They know what they did. They don't care that they did it. That's the whole point, right? They brought out how there was an electric chair, right? There are still students, not even students, brothers and sisters who survived the 60s scoop, right? If you go on the I.S.U.P.K Canada Facebook, you'll see or even on my Facebook, Zabadja Benjamin, but go on I.S.U.P.K Canada Facebook, you'll see the full interview of a brother from the Cree Nation gave me an interview last week, and we posted it up on I.S.U.P.K Canada on the Instagram. It's also on the Facebook and on my Facebook. Right, you'll hear the stories, right? You'll hear how he tells you it was pain and torture. There's stories that came out. They had an electric chair torturing our brothers and sisters. Right. Can you get me, Baba Kashak, can you get me Ecclesiastes 10 verse 7?
Come.
Hey, Shalom, Aki, how about Shimi Ashai Barakatha?
Shalom, Mark. Yabashim Shabrak.
Hey, you too, Wab?
I'm feeling Tawab right now.
Okay. For those of you who don't know, Tawab means good. I asked my brother, is he good? Right? If you get in the Lashuan Kodash classes at 7 p.m. on this channel on Fridays, you'll learn how to speak Hebrew. Even if you don't want to speak it daily, listen, man, if you're a Black, Hispanic, Native American, you have another language that these oppressors don't really know about. Right? Okay, you can get me that Ecclesiastes 10 verse 7. Trooper, we're basically talking about black porters and how there was a time in Canada when black men were only allowed to be servants on trains, right? They had to spend long hours away from their families and become servants on trains. So that's what we're going to read now. We're going to read about we're just going into the precepts, but I put some articles in the live chat for the articles we're reading if you want to see them, or you could just hit me up later and I'll send them to you through the WhatsApp. You can read that Ecclesiastes, Baba Kasha.
Come. It's Ecclesiastes chapter 10 and verse 7. I have seen servants upon horses and princes walking as servants upon the earth.
Right. Read that one more time and read it slow. We're going to break it down right now.
Come. Verse 7. I have seen servants upon horses.
Right. So the servants that are on horses are our oppressors. Just like is said in Genesis 25 verse 23, right? The elder will be a servant. The elder is going to serve the younger, right? Now these servants are on horses. They're up high above us. A man who sits on a horse, it means that he's above us at a high level, right? These servants are upon horses, right? Keep reading.
And princes walking as servants upon the earth.
Right. Like if you're Black, Hispanic, or Native American, you are a prince, right? You have a crown. You're supposed to be the rulers of the earth because you're the only ones with a moral conscience. You're the only ones that have compassion, right? As we played the video earlier, you seen a reporter talk about how the porters were called George, every single one of them, and he showed no remorse. He showed no sympathy. Right? He didn't say, well, that was a bad thing. That should have never happened. He didn't say this is tragic, right? Because he doesn't have a moral compass, right? But Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, you have a moral compass. You ever listen to our brothers talk, our Native brothers talk? They talk about nature. They talk about how you're supposed to take care of the earth, and the earth will take care of you, right? Which that makes the most sense to me. And when you read the book, you find out when you farm the earth for I think 6 years, and on the 7th year, you're supposed to have enough saved up that you let that earth rest, right? Now we just farm the earth every year, and at the end of the day, like you start to see that bad things start to happen, right? But these princes were walking as servants upon the earth, right? Now think about it. During slavery, during our oppressors' reign, when they hopped off those boats, they had horses and they had us chained next to those horses walking. That's a literal thing, right? They literally had Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans chained up walking next to horses. If you want to get a clearer picture of what I'm talking about, go watch the first 10 minutes of the movie The Django. I'm not really a fan of that movie because I don't like, a lot of oppressors died. Cool. I don't like the comedy style of our oppression. That's straight up, right? Some people like it. I'd rather watch Nat Turner, right? Even though the ending was whack, I'd rather watch Nat Turner over the Django, right? Or Birth of America. That's what it's called. Birth of America. Right. But the servants are upon horses, right?
Salakia, sir.
Khan.
If I may, if I may bring a precept of
no sweat.
What you're saying is so heavy in that it's like the scriptures say that this is the living word,
Right.
right? Like the things that we read about in this book, they are happening. Like they are alive and happening. And those
Right.
brothers who were working as porters, like they were literally princes, you know what I mean, walking the earth as servants. Like we weren't meant to be like this. We weren't meant to be porters, right? We weren't meant to be doing all these excuse my language, bullshit jobs that we do in society.
Right.
Understand? And Salaki, if I may, the precept was Jeremiah chapter 2 and verse 21. And it says, "Yet I had planted thee a noble vine, holy, a right seed. How then art thou turned into the degenerate plant of a strange vine unto me?" You understand? Meaning, like the Most High is like, I gave you the children of Israel the law, statutes, and commandments. He gave us the law, statutes, and commandments, right? He made us a noble vine. He gave us a way to live. He gave us like the knowledge and the understanding on how to be just knowledgeable in this world.
Right.
Yet we chose to live like the other nations. Yet we chose to serve the other gods of the other nations. And that's why we're walking around today, as the scripture said, a degenerate plant.
Right.
You understand? Like we're walking around as princes. We're princes walking around as servants. You understand? It's a sad thing for me to see, right? Like I shouldn't be looking around outside seeing brothers on a low state. Like
Right.
we were meant for something so much greater. Salakia.
Nah, that's so heavy because like we were meant for something so much greater. I was before my last slavery, right? I had to deliver things, right? So I was delivering tools, and I had to deliver tools to. There's a center for Native Americans where they basically give out food and things like that and clothes, and during the COVID it was open. I'm not sure if it was like a shelter as well, but I went there and I see my brothers and sisters in such a sad state. I had to go and just like basically go park up for a second and just like vent all my anger because I was pissed. I wanted to like I can't even tell you what was going through my mind at the moment, right? Luckily I have this school where I didn't execute what I had in my mind. Because executing what I had in my mind, they would label me something terrible, right? And that's because I was out there and I seen the oppression my brothers and sisters are going through. And these are okay. During World War, Slovakia, I might be confusing the wars if it's World War II or the Vietnam War, right? They had Native Americans cracking codes of the opposing armies, right? That's because these Native Americans, they were good. There's actually a movie on it where there's a brother, he's cracking the code. I'm not sure exactly what it's called. If I remember it, I'll put it in the chat or something. But he's cracking codes and he knows how to track. That's what they use him for, right? That's because our brothers and sisters, they're extremely smart, extremely wise, extremely knowledgeable about many things that happen in our everyday society. Look at all the inventions Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans have made over the last 200 years that we get zero credit for. The only thing our oppressor invented was the patent office, right? We would make an invention. We would go to the patent office. He would say, okay, it's patented. It's not even patented. They just wait till you leave, then they patent it under their name. That's why you think an oppressor made the telephone. That's why you think an oppressor made the light bulb. Right? There are so many inventions from Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. And if again we put the email in the chat, right? If you have anything that pertains to Black, Hispanic, or Native American history, especially Black, Hispanic, or Native American history that pertains to Canada, Like, just send us a link in the email, right? Email us, send us a link so we could bring that out for class, right? Because these are the things that are supposed to be known, right? They have us as a Salakia, Officer Shariwan. What kind of plant do they have us as?
So, Slaki, what's that? What kind of what?
From Jeremiah 20:21, there was a specific word for the plant.
So a degenerate plant.
They have us as a degenerate plant, right? When we're supposed to be, what kind of plant are we supposed to be?
Slaki, sir, a noble vine.
We're supposed to be a noble vine, right? You could drop that. Jump down to verse 14, Baba Kasha. In that same chapter that you're in, Officer Shah, you want to jump down to verse 14?
Sir. Ecclesiastes 10 and verse 14. A fool also is full of words. A man cannot tell what shall be.
Oh, Salakia.
And what shall be.
Salakia. In the Jeremiah, you were in Jeremiah too.
Oh, sir, Salakia.
It's all good.
This is Jeremiah chapter 2 and verse 14. Is Israel a servant? Is he a homeborn slave?
Are you supposed to be a porter? Right? Are you supposed to be a slave? Are you supposed to get a delegation, run to the Catholic Church, and beg him for some type of answer? That man's just gonna laugh at you. He's just gonna smile in your face, wait till you leave, then they're gonna crack jokes, and they're gonna go through all the records and they're going to have, like Salakia, they for lack of better words, they get gratification remembering all the things they did to us. I'm quite sure somewhere in that Vatican there is a detailed list of all the crimes they did to Native American children,
right,
all the crimes they did to Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans in general, right? And they probably get together. Now, I'm speculating, but I believe this is more than likely true. They get together and they go through those records and have a good old time remembering, right, what they did. You can tell they don't care, because whenever a Catholic priest gets caught up for molesting a child, all they do is make the priest switch his name. He switches his name, and now he's not Pope John the Third. Now he's Pope Peter. He's Priest Peter, right? He's Priest Michael, right? He's no longer in New York. Now he's in Toronto doing the same thing. And when he can't be in Toronto no more, he's in Montreal, right? To the point where in Montreal, a priest can't even be alone with the child, right? Salakia, he's not even a priest. He's just a Christian in a black robe with a white dog collar around his neck. They're not allowed to be alone with a child, right? Read that one more time, Baba Kasha.
Is Israel a servant? Is he a homeborn slave?
Right. Is Israel a homeborn slave? Are we supposed to be serving our oppressors? Right. The answer is plain. Is la'a. We're not supposed to serve our oppressors. Right. We're not supposed to be subjugated to only being able to be a porter. Right. We're not supposed to only be like, okay, take this in. Black businesses started to boom during the lockdown, right? Now, you could say, okay, yeah, I went to go get my hair done at a black salon, right? That salon is not allowed to operate unless it goes to the oppressor to get some type of permit. You literally can't work a 9 to 5, can't feed your family without the oppressor's say so. Right? And you can say black-owned business, which is cool. I want a black-owned earth, right? I want a black-ruled earth, a Native American-ruled earth, an Hispanic-ruled earth. That's what I want, right? Black owned businesses is cool, but the day the oppressor says, listen, you got 6 months to get out, 2 months to get out, we're selling the property. Now you got to go find somewhere else to be. You got to find somewhere else to lease and pray that they let you lease it, right? Because as soon as you start doing it out of your basement, they're going to tell you you've committed all sorts of crimes, right? But the oppressor gets to do whatever he wants out of his basement. They started companies out of their basement, and because it's an oppressor, Slovakia, you know what? I'm going to do a class on this one day, right? In America, they call it the dollar cab, right? In Canada, you might go to do your groceries and you might see a brother and he might give you the head nod and you already know what's up. He's about to drop you home for a fee, a small fee, right? So many times they try to charge these brothers and hit them with fines and tickets, right? A oppressor started a company called Uber, right? No permits, no nothing, no fines. Now Uber is the biggest thing, right? Slovakia. Let's see. 1 second. And that's to show you that you are cursed in the city. You can't do anything without the oppressor approving it. For himself, though, he doesn't care. They just do it. Slovakia. Baba Kasha, can you get me Amos 4? Amos 9 and 4.
Come. This is Amos chapter 9 and verse 4. And though they go into captivity before their enemies, thence will I command the sword, and it shall slay them. And I will set mine eyes upon them for evil and not for good.
Right. So our oppressors are going to be slain. Right. They're gonna be judged for all the crimes they've done to us. They're gonna be judged for not letting us get good jobs and telling us we could only be porters and telling us we could only come to Canada from Jamaica if we work in the potato farms. Right. Only if we go up there and pick apples for them and strawberries and do all the farming that oppressors don't want to do, right? They like, if you think about it, like there shouldn't be no oppressor owning a farming company, right? That those companies, all the farming should be done by the people who were here first, right? Let them get that monopoly so they could bring money into their communities. They could take that money now and get the government grant for the clean water plant. Let them get the grant for the clean water plant, but now they have money to operate the water plant, right? Because they'll build water plants on the reserves, but again, they won't give them a money to operate it. So then nothing changes. You just have an empty water plant, right? Was that the end of the verse?
That on concept.
You could jump to verse 11.
Salakia, sir. Did you say verse 11?
Khan, you could jump to verse 11.
Come. Verse 11. In that day will I raise up the tabernacle of David that is fallen, and close up the breaches thereof. And I will raise up his ruins, and I will build it as in the days of old.
Read 12.
Verse 12. That they may possess the remnant of Edom and of all the heathen which are called by my name, saith the Lord that doth this.
Right. So there's going to be a time when we're going to get the heathens, right? When we're going to get to take possession of the oppressors, right? Salakia. Right. Let's not forget it's 9 o'clock. Blackwatch dot Salakia. Blackwatch News. Right? Blackwatch space news on YouTube. Go check it out. New channel alert, Blackwatch News. Check it out. They're going live right now. Right? You don't want to miss it. There's going to be some incredible stories. You know, the oppressor is a hater, so they're trying to take down our channels, right? You want to get these videos right now. You want to watch these videos and download them onto your computer so you have them, right? And if not, if you don't do that, just go to blackwatch.news and you can watch them there, right? Salakia, Trooper Barakia Allah, can you get me Lamentations 4 and 17, Baba Kasha?
Khan.
Officer Shariwan, you can continue reading where you were at.
Khan, Salakia, sir.
Khan, it was Amos 9 and 11.
Khan. We're at verse 13.
Verse 13.
Behold, the days come.
Khan, you can keep reading.
Khan.
Oh,
Verse
no,
13.
read 12 again for me.
Behold, the days come. Salakia, sir. I'm not sure if that's me lagging or you, but I'm having a tough time hearing you.
Okay, Khan. Can you read 12 for me again, Baba Kasha?
12, Khan. Verse 12. That they may possess the remnant of Edom and of all the heathen, which are called by my name, saith the Lord that doth this.
Right. So there's going to be a time when the nations start to go to war with each other, right? They're going to do what they do best. They're going to kill each other. That sky is going to crack. We're going to see our king come down, right? When that happens, they're going to do the next thing they do best, get together to try to destroy blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, because that's what they do, right? Then after they're beaten up to a point, our army, we're gonna be already gathered together, and then we're gonna be able to go in and beat the rest of them, right? And we're gonna take those survivors as our possession, because we were their possession, right? Now that's justice, right? Going to the Pope to beg for clean water or an apology, that is nothing. That's nothing compared to having the Pope on a leash. Right? You could burn down as much churches as you want. That's nothing compared to all the churches, and America is a lake of fire. Right? Slovakia, right, you could drop that. Salakia, Barakia Allah, Trooper, can you get me, you can read the Lamentations 4 and 17?
Khan. There's the book of Lamentations, chapter 4, verse 17. As for us, our eyes are yet filled for our vain help. In our watching, we have watched for a nation that could not save us.
Right. So we think that this Salakia, you don't think that the oppressors are going to save you, right? Don't think that because a book is written about porters that they give a damn. They don't care, right? If they could keep all the bodies of the Native American children buried, they would keep them buried, right? If they could make it seem like Native Americans chose to go to residential schools, that's what they'll tell you, right? Pretty soon, after all the Confederate statues are gone, you're not going to have a history on these Confederate leaders, and you're going to hear that, oh, these were good people, and we were just workers, right? That's what you're going to hear. You're going to hear, we just wanted to work. We worked and volunteered, right? You're not going to hear that there was rape and murder and brothers whose backs were disfigured because they were using cow whips with metal attached to it to whip brothers and sisters and children if they didn't pick enough cotton. You're not going to hear stories about electric chairs in residential schools. You're not going to hear the story of the 60s scoop, where even in the 1960s, they were still kidnapping Native American children, right? You're not going to hear stories that say the job of serving an oppressor on the train was reserved for a black man, because that's all they see of you is just a man who will serve, right? Read that one more time, Baba Kashar.
Lamentations chapter 4, verse 17. As for us, our eyes as yet filled for our vain help. In our watching, we have watched for a nation that cannot save us.
Right? We're watching for a nation that can't save us, but there is someone that will save us, right? He's gonna be king of the earth. We call him Yahushua. I know it sounds kind of strange to you, but listen, you probably believe in your horoscope. You probably go to your horoscope and read it every day, and if it says don't take an elevator, you're gonna walk down 20 flights of stairs. So allow me and my brothers and sisters to believe that the sky is going to crack and our king is going to come and put us in our rightful place if we keep the law, statutes, commandments of the Most High. Right? Salakia Akim, if there's anything y'all want to add, you already know, y'all could jump in before we end the class.
Come on, sir. What you brought out tonight was just heavy. Understand? Just the water for the information. To anybody who tuning in, definitely check us out. No Cowards Canada. Make sure you keep tuning in to Officer 500 Zabadia's class. Brother's bringing out a lot of good history in Canada. Salakia.
Khan. Throughout the ark for those kind words, right? Once again, our oppressor is the devil the Bible speaks of. Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. Real nigga link up time. Time for us to link up, man. We got to gather together. We got to build our family and bring it back together, right? If you could see behind our pictures, you see the tribe names, and then you see North American Indians, Cubans, Seminole Indians, right? There's 12 tribes, right? Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. We make up the 12 tribes of Israel. That's the heritage they beat out of us, right? You ever wonder why a Native American's regalia, I think that's how you say it, regalia, right, has fringes on it? Because they are the tribe of Gad. They know their history, right? They have little remnants of it, right? Once again, this is the I.S.U.P.K. Monday night history class, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., right? Tune in next week. Tomorrow we have the Brotherhood class from Tuesday on this channel, Salakia, 5 to 7 o'clock.
Concert.
Right, Tuesday night Brotherhood class, right? Also, don't forget to check out I.S.U.P.K Quebec. They were live today as well, right? Check that out. And right, Shalom. I'm gonna hand the class over to Officer 50 Sharyuan. Big up Trooper Barakia Allah for coming in tonight, for being with us. Give that brother a hand. Right, it's good seeing you out. Hopefully we can link up just now. Right. Again, this is the Monday night history class. Don't forget to check out Black Watch News. It's on YouTube, streaming live right now.
God, let's clap it up for Officer Zabadia. This is the I.S.U.P.K security announcements. We are the I.S.U.P.K, started out of 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York. Rule for new brothers and sisters. When a new brother or sister comes into the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to shed themselves of the world. If they need transportation, the teacher will arrange it. After 6 months, if a brother or sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or sister. There is another 6 months in which the brother and sister will court each other. After this 6-month period, the brother and sister will get permission from the head to marry. Tithes, which is a commandment. Numbers 18, verse 21, and Malachi chapter 3, verses 8 to 10. Ma'ashra means tenth in the Hebrew. 10% of every penny of any increase the Lord gives you, give to the treasury department or teacher. Priest fund, freewill offerings for priests is not mandatory. Whatsoever amount you would like. Upcoming holy convocations. On September Monday 6th, we have the memorial of blowing of trumpets. You can find that in the book of Leviticus chapter 23. With that, we're going to give a courtesy salute to the brothers and a courtesy salute to the sisters. Men of Israel, I.M.A.J.M, which means stand. Going to give a courtesy salute to the brothers, men of Israel, I.M.A.J.M Shabbat, I.M.A.J.M, Barak, Yahba Shimei Ashai Barakathum, Yad Yamatah. Going to give a courtesy salute to the sisters, men of Israel, I.M.A.J.M Shabbat, I.M.A.J.M, Barak, Yahweh Shamar Alathan Bashim Yahushai, Yad Yamatah, which means hands down, class dismissed.
Oh, so Rocky, I didn't put the sign up link. I'm gonna drop that sign out link right quick. Give me one moment.
This for my people. This for my people. Yeah, this for my people. This for my people. This for my people. Yeah, this for my people. Fuck the white man, 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 fuck the white man. Painted by the pen. Get a whole lot of damage. Shit was outlandish. Banks got branded. Split up all the families, then shipped across the Atlantic. So many died from the famine. Threw the dead bodies over 4 sharks, ate them like salmon. I know you can't stand it. I speak the truth, goddammit. Big business got managed until you double back. Came to pick up all the blacks. Put speed of 5 back, we never got to relax. Pretend instead of screaming, then you double back without a crack. The type of game that you play, hey, to keep it real, I ain't going for it. Beat a couple court cases, had a run for it. Told my mama if I ever did time, I'ma raise up the whole yard. Have a lawyer like, oh Lord, the truth, he had no choice. No problem, ain't tripping, running through the scriptures. Behind me said the Lord, which boy, that's a small issue. Bounce back up and rebound. UPK got the heat now. They done let me out the leash now, teaching in the streets now. I'm part of Lost Tribe South, but it started in the East now. Look, this for my people. This for my people. Yeah, this for my people. This for my people. This for my people. Yeah, this for my people. Fuck the white man, 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 fuck the